players up and engaged when the season is not unfolding the way they hoped it would at the start?
Truth be told, I mean, the guys showed up with a great mindset on Monday. They probably recovered from the outcome of the game quicker than the coaches. But I think the guys understand where we're trying to go as a program. I think they're invested in helping build the foundation of this program. I think we're also in a stretch of the season where, they got some rivalry games coming up. They got some personal vested interest in some of these games coming up. So really, it's been spirited practices on Monday and Tuesday, and really haven't had to do much in terms of lifting their spirits. But then also too, I let them know that we're moving forward. We're building a program, and yes, I want to win every single game, but the objective is to make sure that we get the fundamentals right. And I think the guys have turned the corner in terms of believing, what we're trying to build from a program standpoint, and they're excited about the opportunity that they have left. I mean, yeah, we're 3-5, but we got 4 more games and an opportunity to possibly win 8 games. If you get hot, you win down the stretch. You get opportunity for the postseason and win the postseason. So there's still a whole lot left to play for this team.
Tony, you were around Trevor Lawrence every day in 2018 when he was a freshman. You competed against Jameis Winston when he was a redshirt freshman in 2013. What, if any, similarities do you see with them and Drake Maye and the quarterback you're going to face on Saturday?
Great question. They just have a presence about themselves. You can tell watching him on film that the game's not moving too fast for him. That's one of the things with freshman quarterbacks and all young guys in general is the game moves extremely fast. But for him, he's in control of the offense. You can tell that he's very comfortable. He understands what they're doing. He has his progressions. If his progression's not there, he's going to find the running back on a check down, or he's going to take off and extend the play with his legs. And so what you see is just a poise, just a natural poise from those guys. And when you watch Drake play, you just see that, man, he's in control. He never panics. He understands the situation. He understands the offense, and he knows how to move the ball down the field.
Did you evaluate him as a prospect at Clemson?
We did, and I went to see him, watched him play basketball. He was a heck of a basketball player too. So, and there were some relationships between the tight ends coach at the time and his family.
Yeah, Tony, with North Carolina's offense too, their receivers, Antoine Green, Josh Downs. We talked a lot about your corners. You're here recently, Fentrell and Anthony Johnson. Just what about the task they're up against this week and those 2 pass catchers particularly?
Right. The great thing, in my opinion, I feel like they get challenged every single day on our practice field, with the guys that we have. And I think the potential that we have in the receiver room of our own is very similar to what those guys have. But with the receivers, it's not just going to be the corners. I mean, our pass rush has to get to the quarterback. We got to get to the quarterback. We got to affect his timing. We can't allow him to break contain within the pocket. We got to stay in our rush lanes. Biggest thing for our guys, they got to accept the challenge. They got to play discipline. They got to make sure they have their eyes where they're supposed to be. But we got to do a great job of affecting the quarterback so that these guys don't have a ton of time to get open. And great corners usually have a good pass rush that will help on the back end.
Next we'll go to Jackie, Jerry, and Matt Newton.
After the game, you're saying you were hoping to get Mikhail Boley back, and John Paul Flores was a little bit hurt too. How was the health of the offensive line, and how quickly do you expect those guys back? Yeah,
JP, we're hopeful to get him back this week. He's been having to do a little bit of rehab, and Josie, I thought, did a great job when he came in. I think he shows a ton of potential, and that's where we're challenging him to continue to improve. Those guys have been battling. We're hoping to have Mikhail Boley back this week. He's been back in practice, so it seems like week to week it's whoever's available. You just mix and match those guys, and it's hard to build continuity. But I tell you what, those guys are battling. They were scrapping. They had a very tough task this past week with that defensive front from Miami. Probably the best or second best defensive front that we're going to play all season.
Tony,
not a lot of people have been able to slow Carolina down for an entire game. If this does get into a track meet, are you concerned considering the red zone woes that you guys have been going through?
You know, we got to be prepared to score points, and I think the objective every time you step on the field from an offensive perspective is to go score. So the biggest thing is for us, we're moving the ball, and hopefully, I've been kidding with the guys and just challenging them. I said, man, we can't be allergic to the end zone. You know, hopefully we'll shake those allergies and we'll find ways to put it in the end zone. If you look at the past game, there were, at least 3 plays. We make 3 plays, then that's 21 points on the board. So the guys have responded to the challenge. I think the guys are going to be excited to play, which they were excited to play last week. And offensively, the objective is to score points every time you touch the ball. So going to challenge these guys to throw and catch and block, give the quarterback some time, and then hopefully we can play complementary football with the defense.
Matt Newton, do you have a question?
Yeah. Coach, talk a little bit about Will Bettridge and what you saw from him on Saturday. He made some big kicks, especially in overtime, and just talk about how he bounced back after a shaky performance at Georgia Tech.
Right, very proud of him. He was a guy that probably put more responsibility on himself than he needed to from the previous game, but just shows that he's a competitor, that he's going to come to work every day, and he's a freshman, and he learned that man, the approach, the preparation is key, and he went out there and he did what you want them all to do, just to kick like nobody's looking. Don't put more pressure on yourself than you need to. Just go out there and do your job. You've done it before. You can do it again, and I think the biggest thing is his teammates just showing that they believe in him.
Okay, next we'll go to Mike Barber, Preston, and Zachary, if you have a question too.
Hey, Coach, you've talked a couple times about the transition, I guess, for Brennan and the offense to your system maybe being harder, more challenging for them than you anticipated. What did you kind of anticipate, and where have some of those hiccups that you didn't expect, where have they come from?
I thought, the things that I was expecting is that the throwing catching would come a little bit easier and quicker than it has. But at the same time, too, when the quarterback's learning a new progression system, and if he's late with the ball, then now the ball placement is not where it needs to be. The receivers' timing, they need to be where the quarterback's expecting them to be. So, that's something that I thought was going to happen a little bit quicker. And, just proud of those guys, because you think about it, everybody wants to keep talking about last year. They want to talk about the new system. Well, it takes time. And what was a product of last year was, the challenges that were endured the 2 years before, building that chemistry and that timing. And you look at the game, I thought just this past game versus Miami, first play of the game, the receivers running the 42 on the hash and the quarterback puts it a little bit outside. You know what I'm saying? All right, that makes sense, and so now the timing was off, and I was proud of Tay because I felt like in the Miami game, Tay played as fast as I thought he was capable of, and I hadn't seen that week in and week out, and so when you don't have that, now the quarterback's trying to throw the perfect ball, and so just the chemistry, takes a little bit of time to develop, and then the areas where Brendan still has to work is, trust your protection and go through your progression, step up, deliver the ball, as opposed to looking to break the pocket, too quickly. And I'm thinking of in particular, there was a third down situation where he's got good protection. His number one progression is coming open. He doesn't trust it. Now he needs to go to number 2. Lavelle's screaming wide open, coming on the shallow route. We dump the ball off to him. He runs for the first down. So just those things of trusting, your progression, trusting your protection to be able to deliver the ball.
And then he's about 10% lower his completion percentage. Is that just a product of what we're talking about, the timing and some of the drops, or is there things in his mechanics right now that you are concerned from an accuracy standpoint?
I'd say it's a combination, with the last part of that question being the least impactful. There's been a couple of times where I've challenged him, hey, don't, because what you're seeing nowadays, if you just want to be truly honest, is you watch Dak Prescott, you watch Mahomes and all these guys are working these off-platform throws, and so then now it's, every quarterback wants to make the off-platform throw when you don't need to make the off-platform throw. You need to get your shoulder to your target and deliver the ball. So there's been a couple of those, not too many, and Brennan's actually really good at the off-platform throw. I think it's been more a combination of the drops. We got 40-plus drops, and then, I think he's been trying to throw the ball perfect and catch the ball to compensate for some of the drops, trying to catch the ball for the receiver where he just needs to throw the ball where he's supposed to throw it and trust that the receiver is going to make the catch. And so I think those are three things that have impacted, and then protection too. I think when you're having to get the ball out before you're ready, right, or you're having to move in the pocket and reset, that messes with timing, and then now balls are a little bit behind. But I think the biggest thing is, man, guys got to go make the catch required for them no matter what. I mean, that's your quarterback. And, that's a mindset that I'm trying to develop with these guys is, man, if the quarterback gets it close, catch the ball, right? And you tell your quarterback, I got your back, bud. I don't just get it in my zip code, and I'm going to catch the ball. And I think that, we've allowed some balls to get away just because we didn't have that desperation to make our quarterback right.
Hey, Preston, hold on just a second. We're going to make a little tweak here. And then so we'll go Preston, Zach Carey, and then Chris Wright just joined us so you can get up after those guys. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Tony, on Saturday you talked about going in the locker room, seeing, guys that, hated to lose. That was more the feeling that you're kind of getting out of that. How is it, in your first year, how hard is it after a game like that to continue building momentum as a program, not just on the field and in this one season, but overall as a program when you're dealing with losses like that on Saturday?
Saturday's loss to me was different than some of the others that we have, because the guys laid it on the line. They played for 4 quarters plus overtime. I didn't ever get a sense that the guys believed that we weren't going to win the game. Everybody battled, and we didn't make the 4 or 5 plays that we needed to make. And I don't feel like it was something that Miami made the plays that didn't allow us to make the plays. We just didn't make the plays, and so there was something to build upon. There was progress that we fought and we battled, and that's all I asked the guys to do, to take the mindset into the game that versus Miami it was going to be a fist fight. That they were battling for the same thing, and I felt like culturally we took a step forward. Now, to build upon in the locker room, what I need to establish for these guys is, man, it's really gotta hurt to lose. And when it really, really hurts to lose, that tells me that, you fully invested in the process, right? You fully invested in giving it everything that you have. And then as a competitor and as a winner, you know the cost of playing the game, that I could win or lose. I believe that I'm gonna win. If I happen to lose, right, I take ownership for my responsibility in the loss. I have self-awareness. I evaluate what I need to do to get better. It hurts, and then I channel that thought, right, and I put it back in my brain, and I use it as passion and motivation so I don't feel it again. When you're okay with losing, right, then you're never fully going to be invested. You're never fully going to commit. You're never fully going to give yourself an opportunity to win every game when you step on the field, regardless of who you're playing. So I'm starting to see more of the guys that are believing in what it takes, and it takes what it takes, and what it takes is everything you got. Right, there's no substitute. You can't settle for less. So, that's where I'm trying to transition the mindset. And when you have that, and when you fully invest in the process, then you walk on the field with confidence, not an arrogance, but a confidence and a belief that I'm going to win every single game. And then you know what? You start believing that I can make those 4 or 5 plays that are going to tip things in our favor. And then when you're there, you also know that winning comes at a high cost. So you stay humble. So you enjoy it for the day, and then you reset the next day, and you go back and commit to the process over and over and over. And it's actually really mundane, to be honest with you. It's really, really mundane. It becomes a routine, but it becomes a way of life. And the trade-off is, in the end, you get to experience those moments of success. And then when you have those moments of failure, right, you grow through that adversity. And that's what propels you forward.
Real quick, a couple injury things.
Yep.
Brennan, he said if he can walk, he can play. Just how is that left ankle? He said it's been kind of weird lately. And then also Josh Ahern.
So Ahern is day to day. I'm hopeful to get Ahern back, but the biggest thing, you're talking about a hamstring issue, and what you don't want to do is you don't want to bring him back too soon, and then now you lose him for the rest of the season. So we've been working some load management. Okay, with him, so I'm hopeful. He's been cleared to practice. He's been going through everything, but we'll see as we get to the end of the week what his load will be for the game. And then Brennan, he came back in the game, and I haven't seen any change in him. And he's full speed, he's full go. He's a warrior. We all know that. Love that young man to death. And I really do feel for him. To be honest, because he has to take all the responsibility because he's the quarterback, right? But he can't do it by himself. So we're all in this thing together. There were 3 to 5 plays that we probably want back from a coaching standpoint, where we could have made better calls to put the players in a better situation to be successful. So we're all in this thing together, but really, really proud of man, his toughness, his mental toughness to continue to endure, his toughness to push through the adversity. Definitely not the season that he expected. None of us expected. But, man, I'm proud of him for how he shows up every single day with the mindset to work and lead his football team.
Coach, you mentioned the defensive line earlier. Chico Bennett leading the ACC in sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Butler up to 4 in the season, and it looks like Aaron Famuyi's been coming on of late after a couple of games where you guys played him a little bit less. How would you evaluate the defensive line both in the pass rush and against the run?
They're doing a good job. I mean, first of all, let's talk about points scored. They haven't given up a touchdown in 2 games. They've been holding everybody to field goals, and then offensively, the team scored for them, right? So they're doing a great job there. But, man, the guys are taking the coaching, right? They're applying the coaching. They're getting better every single day. They're finding ways to get to the quarterback, whether it's winning one-on-ones or pushing the pocket so that their teammates can have success. And then the guys are fitting where they're supposed to be. So those big guys up front, they don't get credit. You talk about Jaw Carter. Man, Jaw Carter is a trench monster. He takes on double teams, all day long, so that linebackers like Nick can be ACC players of the week. He's taking double teams to allow those guys to fit. And I think the guys that don't get credit, enough in the run game is the safeties. The safeties are doing a good job of fitting, right, being where they're supposed to be. And so the biggest thing defensively is they're just in position, better and better each week, which is allowing them to have an opportunity. And I think this past game, as the game wore on, we just didn't do a great job of downing the ball on first contact. And so we would have done an even better job against the run statistically if the first guy on first contact was able to get the ball carrier down. But that's why you got to swarm and you got to gang tackle.
Coach, I think you said to us in August that if you can run the ball in for a touchdown, how that impacts the opponent's team defense. You guys haven't been able to run the ball in the red zone very effectively at all. Is that influencing a lot of the offense down there overall?
I think that there was the first down. You look, we hand the ball off to the running back, and right now. And in the course of that game, we got to position block a lot of guys. Guys are needing help to double team, and when you're down in the red zone, especially in the low red, the linebackers are closer because the field area is condensed. They're in man coverage, so they got extra safeties down there, and a lot of times they're going to outnumber you. And so your best option in that situation is to run your quarterback, and the last thing you want to do is just be running your quarterback all the time. I felt like Brennan had too many carries in the game.
Let's go back to Jeff White, David Teal, and Greg.
Mike Collins had a couple plays the other day where he showed what he's capable of doing on the long reception, and I think he had a pretty good run too. I know he was coming off the concussion, so his workload was limited, but do you have any sense with him that maybe things are starting to click with him?
I believe so. Mike is practiced better week after week. He's a talented guy. I just, being transparent, got to get the governor off of him. Sometimes he'll put the governor on, and if you have a governor on when you're practicing, then you're going to have a governor in the game. And so getting him to consistently play full speed, like the 3rd and 3. that we had. We handed the ball off on 3rd and 3, and he runs in there and he's got his eyes down to the ground. And that's a reflection of, in practice, man, you got to take a practice rep where you're running to win. And in that situation, you get through the hole, you're one-on-one with the linebacker. I'm expecting you to drop your pads at 220 pounds and run through the soft shoulder and go get 4 yards. So the biggest thing with him is just increasing his intensity in practice, and he's trying, but there's just some bad habits that we gotta break. But week after week, he continues to come back and improve. Actually, I decided to give him player of the game offensively because of the big plays that he had. So I'm hoping that'll encourage him to stay the course, keep working. But proud of him for the plays that he was able to make, but what I need him to get him to do is what I have to get him to do is to make the routine play, right, consistently over and over and over, and not just be living for the big play.
Tony, you mentioned earlier that as coaches there were probably 3 to 5 calls on offense that you'd like to have back. When you review video with Brennan, do you tell him, look, we missed this one. This isn't on you. And is there an appreciation when you say that to the player and take that ownership? Oh yeah.
So every Monday when we meet as a team, we have a pride in performance. And so I point out first and foremost, before I talk about the grades for the players, I talk about the coaching staff in the areas that we need to get better, the calls that we need to make better. If we're going to have accountability in this program, we got to have total accountability, starting with myself. And if I make a mistake, then I got to be the first one to say that I made a mistake. And I got to have people around me that are going to hold me accountable and tell me when I make a mistake. And then my job is to evaluate the coaches. And so when I'm looking at the film, watching the film, I'm evaluating the play calls. And when I look to evaluate the play calls, one, is it successful? But then two, are the young men in position? And then if there was a breakdown, what was the breakdown? And so the plays that I thought that we needed to do a better job is, there was a 3rd and 1 where we called a naked, which we probably needed to run the ball in that situation. There was another 1st and 10 where we got matched up in zone, where we called another boot, which we had a bad call, and then the 3rd and 1 down on the locker room side, down there in the low red, we were outnumbered, and so that's a bad call. But then also I should have called a timeout, seeing the situation. So I fell short there, and I'm gonna tell the kids, all the time. And then you look down in the red zone. When I think it was the first time we got down there with Lavelle, I think we ran the ball, on 1st down and tried to run the ball, tried to stay in 11 personnel as opposed to bringing the heavier guys in, because all they're going to do is match. And it wasn't that be advantage Miami in the trenches if we allow them to bring a 50 lineman in. Then we go with the shovel pass. I've called the shovel pass, several times for touchdowns, in my career. So didn't feel like that was a bad call. And then now you're in a 3rd down situation, and then we have I think after that we went to was that the unbalance where we did the jump pass there. Tight end's coming open. We get the ball up. It's a touchdown. So there was an opportunity for success there. And then you evaluate some of the other situations. We try to flip a speed sweep to one of our best players to get on the edge because we felt like we couldn't go right at him and knock him back. And the timing was off and the angle of the motion was off. So it resulted in a TFL. And then now you're trying to call a 2nd and 9 or a 3rd and 9 from the 9. Those are tough calls. So again, I'm evaluating the film and being honest with the coaches, and then we're transparent with the players.
Tony, we got to see Jay in the package you guys had designed for him. Where is his development as a quarterback at right now, just behind the scenes in that process?
I think he's progressing well. And, there was a time where we were getting ready to put him in the game when Brandon went down with the foot, and there was no conversation about changing anything in the plan. So I think he's progressing well. I feel confident with him grasping the plan. I think that I'm excited when he gets his opportunity because I think he's going to be able to move the ball both with his legs and with his arms, very similar to what Brandon's able to do. And hopefully, as he continues to get back to full speed and full strength, we'll be able to incorporate him in our offensive packages a little bit more.
We'll go to Jackie, Jerry, and Matt.
I think it was right before the bye week. You were saying that you didn't want the offensive players to rely so much on number 5. You kept saying when things go wrong, they look at number 5 to do something, and Brendan goes in and four system plays. Have you seen that mentality kind of change a little bit in the offense, especially after the bye week and a few games of just looking to themselves as well rather than looking at BA?
Right. I didn't see as much of that at Georgia Tech, just to be transparent. I felt like the guys were still looking to Brennan. This past game, the guys, and this has been the biggest challenge for me since I got here, is changing the mindset of how you approach every single game, that every single game is the biggest game of the year, so that you play with that sense of urgency, you play with that discipline, you play with that play speed. And I saw that, for the first time collectively as an offense versus Miami. And again, it was kind of what I was anticipating, that when you get the bigger logos on the schedule, there's a little bit more skin in the game. Everybody's going to be a little bit more invested, and so they're going to play well. The problem with that is what happens is the previous, 7 games, you've created some bad habits. You've created some bad muscle memory. And then those things, no matter how excited you are to play, how big the game is in your mind, those bad habits are going to show up at some point in the game. And then what happens is you come up a couple plays short. So I felt like Brennan was trying to play within the system, more versus Miami. I felt like the players were trying, and the guys made plays. I mean, you think about Billy, man. Billy made some big plays, some big catches, some hard contested catches, that we hadn't made in the past. We got behind some guys. Man, we were playing fast. First play of the game, man, Tay destroys the guy with his release off the line, and, man, he's wide open. And so we hadn't had those things, as consistent. So I felt like the players were ready to make plays for their quarterback. But, again, some of the timing issues show up in the game like we played, because we've created some bad muscle memory and we haven't been consistent with that timing throughout the course of the year.
Tony, a few weeks ago you said that you were trying to get your receivers to adjust to routes better when things break down and not leave it all on Brennan's shoulders to find somebody. Have they improved in that area, and if they have become proficient at that, how much does that help the quarterback out?
Right. I think whenever you build an offensive system, you're always going to have scramble rules. Right, scramble rules in terms of if the quarterback breaks the pocket to my side, I have, and depending upon my depth and the route that I just finished running, these are my rules. When I'm on the backside and he breaks away from me, depending upon my depth and what I just ran, these are my rules. So I think, the guys are just becoming, more comfortable in general with what we're asking them to do, because it's a combination of timing. So you got step counts, you have yardages. You have different, different over and under rules. You got different conversions from hitch rules, slant rules. You got different techniques on slant. So there's just things that they have to get accustomed to in general from a route running perspective. And then when the play breaks down, then they have to be on the same page as the quarterback. And I think the biggest thing that these guys are getting adjusted to is right now, with where we are development-wise on the offensive line, we just don't have the luxury of being consistent enough to give him, time to just sit back there and go through 3 progressions. We got to hit that first or second progression right now, and in order to do that, everybody's got to be on the same page, and everybody's got to be on the same timing. And I think we're getting better at that. And then, as we can build there, then I think the guys will continue to improve when the plays break down. And then I think what Brendan's doing a better job of too is understanding that, okay, sometimes I just need to pull it down and run and get what I can get and get down, as opposed to sitting back trying to wait for somebody to come open. Because a lot of times what happens when you do that too, now you create more opportunities for mistakes and penalties.
Coach, we've seen Ronnie Walker get some chances on special teams. Do you envision him getting opportunities in the run game at any point in the last few games? I do. I think every day he's getting better with his foot. I think he's, we keep picking on him, telling him, because he gets coached hard by Coach Gaither. It is, Ronnie, stop limping. So I think he's getting to the point now to where he's feeling really comfortable to be able to take some contact and be able to get some weight put on that. Because you think about a running back's life, man, they get tackled by 300-pounders. So that's 300 pounds, on an injured foot. So he's close to getting back. We're going to need him with where we are from a depth standpoint. PJ's, been battling the ankle that he injured. So right now we're looking at PJ's more than likely probably not going to be able to go this week. So now we got to bump up the depth with Hollins and Xavier Brown and Ronnie.
We'll round this out with Preston, Zach, and Chris if you guys have questions.
Well, Coach, that kind of leads into my question is just kind of where do you feel that committee is right now with the running backs? Obviously, Holland's had a couple big plays, and Xavier's been working in there. You got a lot of run down at Georgia Tech. How do you feel where you are with that, especially if Paris is not able to go?
It's been tough because Mike's missed time, Cody's missed time. Cody's still battling back from a hamstring. Xavier's probably had to carry more of the load than you want a true freshman to have to carry, and now he's 9 weeks in plus the 4 weeks of camp. He's ready for the season to be over, so I'm challenging him to push through the freshman wall, and hopefully the success that Mike had in this previous game will motivate him to continue to push. Because he's very capable. We all know that, and he's trying. But we're trying to get him to push to that fifth gear that we know that he has. Because when he plays in fifth gear, man, he's as good as anybody in this league. But when he's not in fifth gear, then he doesn't give you an advantage over playing one of the other guys.
Coach, Grant obviously had the tough drop in the end zone on Saturday. There's been some of that throughout the season. How do you go about addressing that with the player individually? Obviously, he was pretty frustrated with himself after that play, but how do you balance sort of, trying to get him to move on, but also taking that into account so that he can be better in the future?
Next play. Bottom line, it's the next play. And that's the mindset that we have to develop here as a program. It's about the next play. So even if you caught that touchdown, you got to go on to the next play. You can't continue to live in that moment. And if you have failure, okay, correct it and move forward, and don't let that play beat you twice. Right, and then don't allow a positive play to cost you the next play. So it's all about the next play mentality. And man, I don't need to tell him anything other than what he already knows. He's disappointed, enough. I don't need to continue to harp on that. Learn from it, and now evaluate your preparation. Is there anything else that you could do throughout the course of the week to prepare yourself better to be able to perform in that moment? I think that's more of the conversation than really just harping on, the fact that he dropped that one ball. So let's make sure. And the biggest thing that I taught to him and the team is, catching the ball is you catch the ball with your eyes. Right, and so you're seeing a lot of these young guys. They want to worry about run after the catch sometimes, and I'm not necessarily talking about Mitch because I think what happened on that one is, man, Brennan shot that thing out of there, and it came out of a window, and it's hard sometimes when you're running crossing routes, because I did it as a receiver. When you're running crossing routes, especially shallow crossing routes where you're close to the line of scrimmage, right, you don't see the ball come out of the quarterback's hand. It just shoots out of a window, and if you kind of watch the film, you see that ball got on him really quickly. Okay, so then maybe now, from a preparation standpoint, I go and I get a little closer to the jugs, so I get used to seeing that ball come out a little bit quicker. And then every time I catch the ball in practice, I trust what Coach Elliott and all the coaches are telling me, eyes to the tuck. So I overemphasize catching the ball and taking my eyes all the way to the tuck. So if I do that consistently in the course of practice, then in real time, what's going to happen is I guarantee that I see the ball caught. Not every ball is caught on the nose, right? If you don't use your eyes, but if you use your eyes, you can catch it on the nose, catch it to the tuck, and then you eliminate some of that stuff on game day.
You had been rotating a little bit at center. I don't think Justice played
right
in this past game. Is he an option at guard at any point? I know he did that some in practice, and that's kind of related to Flores. Obviously,
right.
I think played a few snaps on Saturday.
Right.
Was he in?
Yep. So Flores was battling. Man, he's battling a couple things, battling a lower body and then an upper body injury, and we noticed in the I believe it was might have been the Tech game that he shouldn't have been in there as much because he wasn't using his hand, and he felt a little bit better this week. So we played him about what we felt like his load could handle. And yes, Justice is Justice is an option at guard. But we feel like 77 and Josie is better suited to go in there at guard for us right now. And it's a week-to-week thing, and I allow Coach 2J to manage their rotation. And truth be told, there's certain schemes that we feel like one's better suited for the other. And we try to match those up, the best we can. But, Ty was doing a good job. He graded out the best of all of our linemen. And so it's kind of like when you got a running back room, whoever the hot guy is, you stay with the hot guy unless there's a situation that dictates you need to bring another person in.